The marketplace was loud and wild, filled with shouting aliens, blinking neon signs, and the sound of credits being thrown onto metal tables. Hidden deep inside the market was a backroom and illegal gambling den, where only the rich and desperate played for dangerous prizes. Inside, smoke floated in the air, and many eyes stared at one table. At that table sat a fat alien merchant with shaking hands. His name was Grivax. His skin was green and rough, and sweat rolled down his forehead. Grivax had already lost everything: his money, his land, even his transport ship. But he still had one thing left: his daughter. She stood silently behind him. Her face was covered by a thin cloth. Her small hands were tied in front. She didn't cry, she didn't move, she just waited. The final game was brutal. Grivax had nothing to offer but her. The crowd whispered when he placed her name on the table. "That's a living being," someone said. "That's his daughter," but no one stopped him. The gambler sitting across from him was a tall alien with sharp red eyes. He smirked and rolled the dice. "Bad luck, Grivax," he said, then laughed. "Looks like your daughter belongs to me now." The girl lowered her head, but the gambler waved a hand. "Bah, I don't want her," he said. "Too small, too quiet. Not worth the trouble." He threw the winning chip away, turned his back, and walked out. Grivax reached for his daughter, but the guards pushed him away. "You lost her," they said. "She's not yours anymore." Now the girl stood alone, trembling. The auctioneer stepped forward and raised his voice. "No owner claimed her. She's now free to take for the price of nothing. Any takers?" The room went quiet. No one stepped forward. Some laughed, some looked away. That's when a new voice spoke from the shadows. "I'll take her," the voice said. Everyone turned to look. A human stood at the edge of the room. He was tall, dressed in a travel jacket, with dust on his boots and a scar across his left cheek. His eyes weren't cruel like the others. They looked kind. The auctioneer blinked. "You want her?" The human nodded and walked forward. He reached into his coat and tossed a few credits onto the table. "She deserves better than this," he said. The auctioneer shrugged. "She's yours." The girl looked up, confused, scared. She expected a slap or a chain, but instead, the human removed his coat and gently wrapped it around her shoulders. "You don't have to be cold anymore," he whispered. She stared at him like he was from another world. "Why? Why would you do this?" she asked in a small voice. The human smiled just a little and replied, "Because no one deserves to be thrown away." He led her out of the room. Step by step, the crowd parted in silence. Some whispered. Some laughed again. A human took the garbage girl. One sneered, but he didn't care. Outside, the sky was dark and dusty. Lights blinked from passing ships above. The human walked beside the girl, still wrapped in his coat. "My name's Jack," he said. "What's yours?" She stayed quiet for a moment, then whispered, "Kira." Jack nodded. "Nice to meet you, Kira." She walked slower now, still unsure if this was a dream or another trick. Her life had been full of lies, pain, and silence. Could this man truly be different? As they reached his small ship, she looked back one last time at the world that never wanted her. Then she followed Jack into a future she could not yet understand. But something inside her, very small and very soft, began to hope. Kira sat at the edge of the small bed inside the human ship. Her hands were tight in her lap, eyes watching every corner of the room like it was a trap. The coat he gave her was warm. Too warm it felt heavy on her shoulders. Not from weight, but from confusion. She didn't understand this man. Jack, humans were supposed to be cruel, greedy, and loud. But this one had said nothing since they left the market, only gave her space, food, and a locked door from the inside. She was free to walk away, but where would she go? Back to the market where no one wanted her. Back to her father, who had traded her like junk. She didn't believe Jack was kind. No one ever was without a price. Maybe he was just waiting. Maybe he wanted to sell her on a better planet, or were Sue's. Her like others had tried. The food on the table smelled good, steam rising gently, but Kira didn't eat. She stared at it as if it were poisoned. The ship's lights dimmed as Jack entered the room quietly, carrying a toolkit in one hand. "You haven't eaten," he said, his voice calm like quiet rain. Kira looked away. "Not hungry," she whispered. Jack didn't push. He simply sat. On the floor nearby, opened the kit and started fixing a broken part of a drone. The sound of clicking tools and soft humming filled the silence. After a while, Kira finally spoke again. "Why did you take me?" Jack paused, then looked at her with kind eyes. "Because you were left there, like trash. And I don't like seeing people treated that way." She didn't reply. Her eyes narrowed, still unsure. She had heard sweet words before, and they always came with pain later. "Are you going to sell me?" she asked bluntly. Jack blinked, surprised. "No, Kira, never." "Then what do you want?" Her voice was sharper now, almost angry, almost afraid. "I want you to live," Jack said. "Eat, rest, grow strong. Maybe smile someday." Kira turned her face away, hiding her eyes. She didn't want to cry in front of him. Later that night, when Jack had gone to his room, she crept through the ship quietly. She didn't know what she was looking for, maybe proof, maybe secrets. But instead, she found him asleep on a simple cot, curled up with a blanket too small. For his body, the room was messy but full of books, old photos, and human things. Beside his bed was a picture of a girl, human, laughing in the sun. It was broken at the corner. She wondered if the girl was dead. Is that why he saved her? Because he had lost someone too. The next morning, Kira found Jack outside the ship, sitting on cold metal and fixing another part of the engine. His fingers were black with grease, his nose red from the chilly wind. He looked up and smiled when she brought him a cup of broth. "You didn't have to," he said. She looked down. "I didn't poison it, if that's what you think." He laughed softly. "Didn't even cross my mind." Something shifted inside her chest at that moment, something warm and scary. She wasn't used to this kindness without chains. Later, he showed her how to clean parts of the ship, and she helped with quiet hands. He didn't order her. He asked, gently. Patiently, at dinner, she finally ate a little, and her stomach growled so loud they both laughed. It felt strange, hearing her own laughter, like it belonged to someone else. Before sleeping, she sat near the window and looked out into space. Stars blinking across the dark like tiny promises. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time, she didn't feel like running away. Jack passed by and placed a soft blanket over her shoulders without a word as he walked away. She whispered, too softly for him to hear, "Maybe? You're not like the others." She still didn't trust him, not completely. But a small piece of her had started to believe. Maybe not all humans were monsters. Maybe one of them was different, and maybe, just maybe, she could be more than what she was bed away for. Kira woke up to soft music playing in the background, not the kind from the loud alien streets, but something peaceful. It flowed gently through the ship like warm air. She sat up, blinked at the quiet hum of the engines, and for once, didn't feel afraid. The coat Jack had given her still rested beside her bed, neatly folded. She had slept without it tonight. For the first time, her body was warmer, but more than that, her mind was calmer. She stepped out and found Jack in the tiny kitchen area, trying to make something on a clunky old stove. Smoke filled the air, and he coughed. "You're going to burn it," she said without thinking. Jack looked over his shoulder and smiled. "Then you'd better come help." Kira hesitated, then walked closer. The smell was strange, but not bad. Together, they stirred, poured, and tasted. Jack even made a silly face when something was too salty. Kira laughed before she could stop herself, After breakfast, Jack led her to a part of the ship she hadn't seen before. It was a small room full of broken drones, wires, and blinking panels. "This is where I tinker," he said. "Thought you might want to learn. Might be useful. If we ever break down in the middle of nowhere." Kira looked at the parts, confused. "You want me to help you fix things?" "Only if you want to," Jack replied. "No orders on this ship." She picked up a tool and stared at it like it was a strange fruit. "Okay," she said quietly. Jack taught her how to open panels, connect wires, clean cores. Her hands were small but steady. She learned fast. After a while, Jack leaned back and asked, "Do you want me to keep calling you Kira?" She paused. "That is my name." "Yes." He nodded. "But is it the name you chose, or the one given to you when you were owned?" That question sank into her like a heavy stone. She had never thought about it. Names were things others gave her, not something she chose. "I don't know," she admitted. "Well," Jack said, "you can keep it, change it. Core, create something new. You don't have to answer today." She looked at her hands, stained with machine grease, and whispered, "Kira is fine. For now." He respected that, didn't push, didn't question. Later, they landed on a small trading outpost to refill supplies. The place was busy, full of strange species and loud vendors. Kira walked beside Jack, wrapped in a simple scarf he gave her. Not to hide, but to stay warm. Some aliens stared, some pointed. A few whispered. One of them, a tall merchant with yellow eyes, sneered. "You bring pets now, human?" Kira stepped back, but Jack didn't even turn. "She's not a pet," he said calmly. "She's my crew." Those words hit her like thunder. My crew, not property, not servant. Not even guest. Crew at a small shop. Kira saw a pendant with a crystal in it. She stared at it for a long time. Jack noticed. "You like it?" "It's pretty," she said, "but I don't have anything to pay for it." Jack shrugged, bought it anyway, and handed it to her. First gift. She looked at it like it was made of stars. "Why?" "Because crew get gifts too," he said. That night, back in the ship, Kira sat on her bed and stared at the little pendant hanging from her finger. Slowly, she whispered her name aloud. "Kira." Then again, louder this time. "Kira," for the first time. It felt real, hers, not her father's, not her old life's. It was her voice, her breath. Her name. Later, Jack walked past and saw her smiling at the pendant. "You okay?" he asked. She looked up. "I am now." He nodded and was about to walk away, but she said, "Thank you, Jack." "For what?" "For letting me exist," she said simply. He didn't answer, just smiled, but inside, he felt something warm too. Maybe he had saved her. Yes, but maybe she was saving him too. The stars outside the ship were calm, but Kira wasn't. She had learned to smile a little, speak a little louder, even laugh when Jack told her a joke. But something inside her still felt like it could break if pushed too hard. Then, on a quiet trade stop at a dusty border station, her past caught up with her. Jack had gone to trade some old ship parts. Kira stayed close, helping load supplies into the cargo hold. She was stronger now, not just in her body, but in her mind. She even waved at a few other traders who passed by, but then she froze. Her hand dropped the container she was carrying. It hit the ground with a loud thud. She saw him, walking through the crowd like a ghost from her nightmares. Gravax the merchant, her father, the one who lost her in a bet. His eyes scanned the marketplace with the same greedy hunger. But when he saw her, he stopped. "Kira," he said, voice sharp. "There you are." Kira backed up slowly, breath catching in her throat. "No," she whispered. "Not now, not again." Gravax walked toward her, ignoring the stares of others. "You belong to me. Girl, I'm here to take you back." Jack returned just in time to see Gravax grabbing her wrist. In a heartbeat, Jack was between them, calm but firm. "Let go," Jack said. This is none of your business. Human Grivax snapped. That girl is mine. She's my blood. You have no right. She's not your property, Jack replied. You gave that up the day you lost her. She's my daughter. Jack's voice stayed steady. No, she's Kira. That's all she is now. The station guards came closer. Drawn by the noise, Grivax pointed at Jack and shouted, This human stole a living being. She was lost in a legal bet. Kira felt. Her heart pounding. Her hands were shaking. But then, Jack pulled something from his Coda small data scroll. He showed it to the guards. Kira is registered under human protection. Jack said, she's listed as an independent person. Not a slave, not a servant, and I am her legal guardian for now until she chooses otherwise. The guards scanned the scroll and nodded. It's valid, Grivax. You have no claim here. Grivax's mouth opened and closed like a dying fish. She is mine by blood. One of the guards frowned. Blood doesn't mean ownership. Kira took a step forward, face pale but firm. You lost me like a coin. Now you want me back like a tool. You are my child. Grivax shouted, You owe me. She met his eyes and said, No, I don't owe you anything. The crowd had gathered now, watching. Whispers filled the air, some mocking Grivax, others admiring the human who stood by the alien girl. Grivax spat on the ground. This isn't over, he said, then turned and stormed off into the crowd. Kira stood frozen, chest heaving. Jack gently touched her shoulder. You okay? She didn't answer at first. Then she whispered, He's going to come back, isn't he? Maybe, Jack said, but you won't face him alone. They returned to the ship in silence. The engines hummed as they lifted off the dusty station. Kira sat near the window, watching the stars fly past. Why didn't you just give me back? She asked suddenly. Would have been easier? Jack shook his head. Easier isn't always right. I'm not worth this trouble, she said softly. Jack leaned against the wall, looking at her. That's not your choice to make anymore. Kira, you're worth whatever you choose to be. She didn't speak again for a while, but deep inside, something had shifted again. Not fear this time, but fire. She wasn't a prize, a tool, or a lost bet anymore. She was Kira, and that meant something now. The ship moved quietly through deep space, far from the noise of trading ports or busy stations, but even in the silence of the stars, danger followed them. Kira was learning to repair more systems now. She laughed more often, trusted her hands, and even sang softly when she worked alone. But in the back of her mind, she remembered Grivax's warning. Others will come, he had said, and he was right. It began with strange signal ships that followed them too closely. Questions from ports that shouldn't know Kira's name. One message stood out the most. A simple line across the screen. Return the girl, or be hunted. Jack read it in silence, his jaw clenched, but he didn't speak right away. They're slave catchers, Kira said quietly. He must have paid them. Jack looked at her. Then we stay ahead of them. But they didn't stay. Ahead? Not forever. One night, the ship drifted near a quiet moon for refueling. The stars were still, the sky black, then movement, silent, fast. A ship with no markings appeared behind them. Its weapons were armed but not fired. Instead, it latched onto them like a parasite. Jack shouted, They're boarding. Kira froze, old fear flooding back into her chest. Her legs wanted to run, to hide, but Jack handed her a small stun device. You've trained. You're not helpless anymore. She nodded, though her hands shook. The lights flickered, heavy. Steps echoed in the ship's hull. Jack took the lead, crouched low, his pulse gun ready. He whispered to Kira, Stay behind me. The attackers came in fast, masked, armored, cruel. One grabbed Kira by the arm. She screamed, but before they could drag her away, she reacted, With a flash of movement, she jammed the stun device into the attacker's side. The electric jolt dropped him instantly. Jack fired at the others, protecting her like a wall of fire and steel. One pirate hit him across the back. Jack groaned, falling hard to the floor. "Jack!" Kira screamed, but the man beside her smiled through the pain. "Run, get to the escape pod." "No," she said, fire rising in her voice. "Not this time." She grabbed a pipe and struck the pirate from behind, then hit again and again until he dropped, panting and stunned. Her hands were bleeding, but she didn't stop. Finally, the last attacker fled, crawling back to their ship. Jack had managed to fire one last shot, sending sparks into the air. The pirate ship detached and flew off into the dark. Silence returned, broken only by Jack's shallow breathing. Kira dropped beside him, eyes wide with fear. "You're hurt," she said, her voice cracking. He gave a weak smile. "You saved me. Remember when I told you you'd be useful?" "Guess I was right." She pressed a cloth against his wound. "Don't talk, just stay awake." "I'm not dying," he whispered. "Not yet." She stayed by his side all night, tending to him, changing his bandages, watching the stars through the window like a hawk guarding her nest. In the morning, Jack sat up slowly, still pale. "You did well, Kira," he said. "You fought back." "I didn't want to," she admitted, "but I had to." "You didn't freeze. You chose to fight. That's power." She looked at her hands, scratched and sore. "I was never strong before. I was only quiet and afraid." Jack reached out and gently touched her hand. "You're still quiet. But now you're brave too." Kira said nothing, but her eyes filled with tears. Not from pain, but from something she couldn't explain. Later that day, while Jack rested, she locked the ship's systems, set up alerts, and even rewired the defense grid. She wasn't going to be caught off guard again. That night, she stood alone in the hallway, staring at the stars. "You won't take me again," she whispered to the dark. "I'm not a prize. I'm not a bet. I'm Kira, and I will fight." Behind her, the ship was safe. Jack was alive. And she, once a frightened girl from a gambling table, was now something else. She was a protector. The next planet was peaceful, full of tall trees with silver leaves and soft blue skies. Jack needed supplies, and Kira needed air after the attack. They both agreed to stay low, away from busy trade routes. The locals were kind but curious. They had never seen a human travel with someone like Kira before. A young alien girl, clearly not a servant, not a slave, but treated like family or something else. They stayed in a quiet village for a few days. Jack helped repair local equipment, and Kira taught a few kids how to build signal lights using junk parts. The children loved her, and the adults watched her closely. It didn't take long for the whispers to begin. Is she his bonded one? Did the human choose her? I heard he wrapped her in his own coat. That means something in their culture. Kira overheard two women speaking near the well. One covered her mouth and said, "They say the human gave her protection and food. That means marriage doesn't." Kira dropped the bucket she was holding. Water splashed across her feet. Her heart beat faster. Marriage? That night, she sat across from Jack by the campfire. They ate in silence for a while. The stars above them blinked like soft candles. "Jack," she said slowly, "do you know what they're saying about us?" He glanced up. "No? What?" "That we're married." Jack nearly choked on his food. "What?" "They say that when a human gives an alien girl his coat and protects her, it's a bonding ritual." Jack laughed, then stopped when he saw her serious face. "Wait, you think that too?" "I don't know what to think," she whispered. "You gave me food, safety, a home. Everything that means love in some cultures." Jack rubbed his forehead. "I did those things because I care, Kira, but marriage wasn't. She looked down, embarrassed. Do you think it's wrong? That someone might think I'm yours. Jack was quiet for a moment. Then he said gently, it's not wrong. It's just unexpected. The fire cracked softly, lighting Kira's face with gold. She looked older now, in age, but in strength. I don't hate the idea, she said quietly, but I'm not sure if it's mine yet. I never had a choice before. Jack nodded. Then let it be your choice now. The whole galaxy thinks we're married. Let them. But only you get to decide what we are. She smiled, small and shy. And if I said yes, one day, then I'd be proud, he said. But only when you're ready. The next day, an elder from the village approached Jack. He bowed slightly and asked, is it true you've accepted the girl as your life partner? Jack hesitated, then said, not officially, but I protect her as if she were family. The elder nodded. Good, because word is spreading. And some don't take kindly to unclaimed females walking with offworlders. That word unclaimed angered Jack more than he expected, as if Kira were an object, not a person. That night, he placed a simple pendant around her neck. This doesn't mean marriage, he said. But it means you're not alone. You never were, and never will be. Kira touched the pendant and whispered, I know. The next morning, she stood taller. Walked with more pride. She didn't care what the villagers said anymore. She wasn't a servant or a slave. She was a girl with a name, with a protector, with power, and maybe with something more. Years passed, but the memory of the bet never left Kira's mind. Not because she was still afraid, but because it reminded her of how far she had come. Jack's ship had changed. No longer a wandering trader's vessel, it became a home, a place where rescued ones came for safety. Alien children, abandoned hybrids, runaway servants. They all found shelter under the same roof where Kira had once stood. Cold and silent. Now she was the one giving out blankets, teaching tools, cooking meals, and telling stories. Children gathered around her like she was a hero. They didn't know her past only, the strength in her voice. Jack sat on the porch of the outpost they built together, watching Kira speak too. A new child, she was kind, patient, and fierce when needed. The villagers no longer called her unclaimed or the bet girl. They called her the fire star because she had survived darkness and shined anyway. One day, a familiar face returned. Grivax, older now, thinner, broken by debt and betrayal. He came not with guards, but with a trade request. His newest goods were failing. A key meant nothing, and yet he bowed before the same girl he had once thrown away. Kira, he said quietly, I come seeking trade. Mercy. Whatever you'll offer. Kira looked at him without hate, only calm trade. She asked, with someone who sold his own child. I was desperate, he muttered. I was wrong. Jack watched from the distance but didn't speak. This was her moment. Kira stood, her pendant shining in the sun. Her voice didn't shake. You taught me I was worthless, she said. But that lesson broke the day a human gave me his coat. She stepped forward, holding a trade form. Signed and stamped, you can trade here. But not because I forgive you, because I believe in building, not burning. Grivax's eyes welled. With tears, he took the paper with shaking hands and nodded, thank you. Kira turned and walked away. A child ran up beside her and said, is that the man who lost you in the bet? She nodded, yes. But he's so small, the child said. How did he ever own someone like you? Kira smiled gently. Because I didn't know who I was back then. Now I do. The news of what happened spread across nearby systems. A girl once bet away, now leading trade routes and protecting others. Aliens whispered her story in taverns and stations, calling her the daughter of iron, the girl who was chosen by a human. And everywhere she went, others followed not to harm her, But to learn from her, to be like her, Jack stayed by her side, never needing thanks. He always said the same thing. She was the one who saved herself. I just gave her the room to grow. But Kira never let him disappear into the background. At every gathering, every story, she always said, "He chose me when no one else would. He taught me I was more than what I was traded for." One evening, under a glowing sky, Jack and Kira stood alone. She looked out at the children playing by the ship and said, "Do you regret taking me in?" Jack shook his head slowly. "Never. You were never a burden, Kira. You were the beginning." She reached into her pocket and pulled out the very same pendant he gave her years ago. She placed it in his palm and whispered, "I think I'm ready. Now, if you still want the answer." He closed his fingers around it and nodded. Yes. They didn't need to say the word married because they already were by loyalty, by pain, by growth. And so the girl from the bet became more than anyone ever imagined. Not just free, not just safe, she became legend.